where this morning President Trump has extended his deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. In a Truth Social post, the president said, after very good and productive conversations with Iran, the U.S. would hold off on striking Iranian power plants for 5 days. Tehran had previously threatened to hit back if President Trump followed through on his ultimatum. More on this, we're joined by CBS News foreign correspondent Chris Livesay, who's joining us from Dubai. So, Chris, what's been the reaction to this sudden announcement by the president? Simply because he seems to indicate that there's robust conversations happening behind the scenes. And, of course, the question is, what kinds of conversations? I mean, clearly Iran is not surrendering. The United States is not letting up. So what are they talking about?
Hey, Vlad and Adriana. Well, it's certainly been a surprise, but in tone more than anything else. And here's what I mean by that. So Trump had been escalating his rhetoric, giving Iran a 48-hour ultimatum to reopen the Strait of Hormuz or face the obliteration of its energy infrastructure. But Trump had also clearly been signaling he'd been looking for an off-ramp. And now we have this surprising shift in tone. 1 minute, he's talking about the obliteration of those energy infrastructure sites. And now he's saying in that Truth Social post that he's having very productive conversations with the Iranian regime. But Iran, for its part, is saying not so fast. Iranian state media is saying it has had zero contact with Trump or the administration this entire time. So there remains a lot of tension and a lot of uncertainty here in the region.
And also, Chris, this comes as missile attacks continue, both in Israel and the region. And then, there was that missile that reached Diego Garcia, that island in the Indian Ocean, which may show that Iran does have intercontinental ballistic missiles. What is the latest in terms of the fighting in the region? Because it doesn't seem like it's scaling back.
That's right, Adriana. I mean, as you mentioned, at the scale of this war, spanning from the Indian Ocean to here in the Gulf, all the way up to the Mediterranean. So in Lebanon, for instance, namely in the south of that country, you have Israel and Hezbollah engaged in fighting. Israel taking out bridges and other infrastructure that it says are being used by that militia backed by Iran in order to launch attacks, especially on the north of Israel. That's a war, a part of this war at least, that's been going on since the beginning of the Iran conflict. And Iran is retaliating not just on Israel, but here in the Gulf as well. It is still a very, very highly volatile situation in the UAE, for instance. Here in Dubai, the area hosting a number of U.S. assets. And just to put it in perspective for you, in the entire region, the United States has about 40 to 50,000 U.S. military personnel, all of them a potential target for Iran.
All right, Chris Livesay reporting from Dubai for us. Thank you, Chris.
CBS News correspondent Cristian Benavides joins us now from West Palm Beach, Florida, where he was traveling with the president. Cristian, the president is not calling off the threat to Iranian power plants. He says he's just delaying it. What is the motivation, do we think, here?
Right, Adriana, good morning. Well, after initially signaling this 48-hour deadline, which would have hit today for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, the president this morning posting on social media saying that there were productive discussions with Iran and that he has asked the Pentagon to postpone any strikes on Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for 5 days. Now, it's not clear who the U.S. government or Trump may be negotiating with. Iran's foreign ministry has denied the talks. But this morning, the president doubled down in an interview with Fox, saying that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff held talks with their counterparts. As far as the motivations, we've seen gas prices rising throughout the world, particularly here in the U.S., reaching nearly $4 a gallon.
Cristian, CBS News polling shows 62% of people disapprove of the president's handling of the situation in Iran. What are Americans overall? How are they feeling? What are their sentiments about this war at this point?
Right, we're getting a sense of that from these polls, these CBS polls that came out over the weekend, including from about the military conflict and the U.S. economy. So we're learning that majority of Americans believe, 63% believe that it's going to make the economy weaker in the short term, and 44% believe that it's going to be weaker in the long term. Pair that with those who believe it may be stronger at only 15% in the short term and 30% in the long term. We also know that Americans, as far as U.S. taking military action against the war, are split among party lines. But when it comes to Democrats and independents, we have 92% of Democrats disapprove of the U.S. taking military action against Iran, and 69% of independents disapprove. And when you look at Republicans, 84% approve, 16% disapprove. Who does approve with at least the comments from the president this morning certainly has been the markets, after the president noted that there would be this a 5-day pause in targeting energy infrastructure and our power plants. The markets have reacted positively. They've been up 1,000 points for the pre-market open.
All right, Cristian, thank you so much for those latest numbers and a little bit of a sense of where the American people stand here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.